Today on the pod, we have Erin Rausch-Miller. She has been an industry stylist for the last 11 years. She was trained at the Aveda Institute of Madison. It is where she developed a passion for green products and absorbing as much knowledge as she could. Erin believes hair is a game of cause and effect and is understood with the power of predictability. Countless classes, including Head Shape Matters, Hair Color Magic, and working with brands like Colorspace and Evo have empowered her to provide guests with individualized services based on their needs. Erin is the owner of Haus of Hair, located in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, where listening comes first, followed by a science-based approach to services. Haus of Hair provides a space of acceptance that transcends gender, race, age, and sexuality. The goal is that every person who enters Haus of Hair truly feels like they're right at home. So Erin, that's quite the bio in the background. We're going to get into it today.
Thank you.
Great to have you on the pod. Before we get started, or as we're starting, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you get your start from a salon professional space?
Sure. Yeah. So going into the hair industry is actually not what I originally thought that I was going to do. I grew up wanting to be a fashion designer.
Amazing.
I wanted to make clothes. I wanted to go into the fashion industry. And when I went into it, I discovered that it didn't really align with what was going to feed my soul and set my soul on fire. So it's when I was talking to my parents, actually, that they pointed out, I think you should go into a creative field. I think that you should, explore the prospect of doing hair. And they brought this up because I actually used to cut my friend's hair at my house all the time. I didn't know what I was doing, but my parents saw this and they were like, well, what if you did it professionally?
Cool.
And I was kind of hesitant because I was like, I don't want to be like, I don't know, in a superficial, minded industry. And they just responded, you are going to get as much out of it as you put into it. And then I finally took the plunge and I said, okay, I'll check out some local beauty schools. How am I going to do that? And my dad was teaching me, he's also a business owner. So he was teaching me the importance of having assets. And he said, well, you did just pay your car off, so you could sell that and go to school. And I was like, I worked so hard. I worked so hard for that car. And it's in putting in the hard work that I realized, okay, this clicks, and stepping into a space of vulnerability, really, to see what I might be capable of. So then when I did go into beauty school, everything kind of made sense. And I started loving the science behind the hair. So my fabric changed from actual fabric to the fabric of hair. I'm still working in a 3D art way. And hair is just my medium now. So
that's so cool. I love that story because, and kudos to your parents for being so supportive and to kind of pull your passion forward because, a lot of times we talk with stylists and it's like, yeah, my parents wanted me to go to a 4-year school. And so I did it and I hated it. And I had all these student debt and all these loans. And I was in a place where I didn't have direction. And then I went to beauty school and found that direction. So I love that so much because one of our points of differentiation here at the Tees is to elevate this profession. Absolutely. That you can go so many places. So well done. Well done.
Thanks. Thank you very much. It's been quite a journey.
I love that you talk about hair as a fabric as well. So very smart. Tell me a little bit about, you recently opened your salon. Tell us about that experience.
It was wild. So we were still in the middle of a global pandemic when I decided to open. And I saw the door and I was like, you know what? I could step through that door. I could create something that is really beautiful. And if I'm in a space of searching for something that I want, why not try to create it? you
Sure.
know.
Yeah.
That was a scary talk about stepping into moments of vulnerability. I'm going to thank my therapist along the way
Yeah.
because she says, more important than the knowledge of something is the willingness to figure it out.
Mm.
So that has kind of been on my mind as I am opening my business, as I'm
Mhm.
doing hair services. We might not know, but if you have the willingness to figure it out, you're going to be okay. And then two, I'm so thankful to have a really amazing support system behind
Yeah.
me. My parents, my wife, my therapist, my family and friends, they were all like, yeah, that makes sense for you. You should go. You should do it. So a space was open and I was like, you know what? I've got the security deposit. Let's go.
Let's do it. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I also needed to, I guess, bring myself back to my why when I did start,
Sure.
Begin with the end in mind. And even though things are speeding up, slow myself down
Mhm.
so that I really could narrow in on the culture that I wanted to create, the space that I wanted to create, who my demographic was that I was working with, and knowing that I'm doing right by them first and
Yeah.
foremost.
I love that. So much thoughtfulness went into it. What was one aspect that, what is one aspect of owning a salon that's surprised you the most?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So it was like this, it was like a huge mountain that I needed to climb. I'm
Okay.
using a lot of analogies here. I hope that's all right.
I like it.
But um I needed to start with just one step at a time.
Okay.
I am, you know, being vulnerable, right? Like I am a neurodivergent person. I got diagnosed with ADHD when I was 6.
Okay.
And so I knew that going into this, I needed to be super organized.
Okay.
Uh, what also surprised me was that I needed to know how to back myself up. And
Mm.
I needed to know more so who I was. Because there were times when I first opened my doors where I was like, okay, defer back to my manager. What does my manager want me to do? Oh, wait, I'm
Mhm.
the manager.
Yeah.
No one's
Wait.
backing me up here,
Yeah.
So I needed to create an airtight plan that I was comfortable being flexible with as
Yeah.
time went on. What kind of policies do I need to set in place for myself as a business owner so that I'm respecting myself and my craft and I can feed my cats and my dog? Uh,
Yes.
but also so that, I'm doing right by my clients.
Mhm.
So it's so crazy when you open a salon, how everything is so connected and there's so much that goes on behind closed doors when you are working as a stylist who works for an owner versus
Mhm.
being the owner.
Yeah, for sure. There's a
Yeah.
lot of facets that go into it that, again, if you are that stylist, you're like, wait a second. I thought I knew all of the things that were happening behind the scenes, and you
Right.
don't. Yeah.
You don't. And, you know, up until that point, I relied on my craft and the knowledge that I gained from doing the actual styling and the
Yeah.
actual hair cutting. And this time I needed to become a new kind of student.
Yeah.
And I needed to be okay with that.
Hmm.
Every part of your life is going to demand a different kind of self. And what kind of self was I stepping into? And I didn't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yep.
Pretty cool.
That was the most
And
mind-boggling.
I mean, amid a pandemic too, right? There's a lot of like self-reflection, discovery, growth that happened in that time. And you really did step into vulnerability that was multi-layered.
Yeah, right? And too, not that she was ever like, you know, discouraging, but my wife was like, she's a very like safety minded, like,
Okay.
okay, let's get all of the plans planned before anything happens.
Yeah.
And she was like, are you sure you can do this? And I'm like, I have plans, and if I don't have plans, I will have plans. So it's
Yes.
going to be fine.
Perfect. So if you talk about, okay, let's do this. We're going to open a salon. How do you stand out from the competition?
Um, it's interesting. So this is going to sound really, it might be an unpopular opinion, but
Okay.
I needed to focus more on myself
Okay.
in order to stand out from the competition. I
Okay.
really needed to make sure that I was doing right by my services
Okay.
first and foremost, and not so much worry about the competition. And if I am doing right by my guests by doing so, then I would consider that a win.
For sure.
Paying attention to my benchmarks, paying attention to, you know, from a stylist perspective and a business perspective, paying attention to where I was allocating my funds to keep my
Yeah.
business going.
Okay.
Uh, I think a lot of times, when we talk to any person, they're like, "Oh, you're opening your own business, so you get to keep 100% of the funds." It's
Right.
like, actually, and this was a recommendation from my dad. He said, "Consider yourself your own employee.
Mm-hmm.
You might be the owner, but you're your own employee."
Mm-hmm.
So, House of Hair owns everything that is brought in, and I need to respect my business then,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and know how to prioritize those things. I hope that answered your
It
question.
did. Yeah. Again, very
Yeah,
thoughtful. So thank you for that. So
absolutely.
you opened the salon, and in 2022, you also had a kind of a crazy year. So it was mentioned that you did 20 weddings,
Yeah,
and you were in three of those weddings. And
yeah,
so how did that all map out? Like, we know event work is a great way to supplement daily, right? Daily
yep.
work. But how did you make that happen in 2022?
Oh my gosh. So, okay. Well, my wife and I had our wedding in May of
Oh, wow.
2022.
Oh, my.
Yeah. So that kind of kicked off the wedding season. And from then on, I lived in wedding world, and it was
Okay.
super fun. I think what really helped during that time was to keep myself organized, um, which again, work on your weakness kind of thing. I
Yeah.
needed to get an airtight contract that answered a
Mm,
lot of the questions that my clients might have on the front end of things, so that there wouldn't be so much confusion on the back end of things.
great point.
I think that it's really important when you step into weddings that um, we're not overloading ourselves, so that we
Hmm.
are still providing that individualized service. We're giving every single bride exactly what they need and exactly what they need to feel on their day. Um, the other thing that really helps is networking with other stylists in the area when you work
Mm,
in your own space. It's really, really important to maintain, a level of professionalism and trust with other artists, so that when you do approach them and say, "Hey, I have this wedding, I would really love to do this with you," that
yeah.
they are excited as well. And wedding days are like game days.
Yeah.
Honestly, I get myself all hyped up, and I'm like listening to music in the same way that I did when I was an athlete. And I'm like, okay, we're ready. Let's go. And then all of a sudden, you get a good team together of makeup artists and other hairdressers, and the whole system starts moving like a beating heart.
Hmm.
And you turn around and you're done.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
everybody is pinned and sprayed to the gods. And it's like, a- and then you feel like you've accomplished a big thing. And I think too, one of the biggest wins was securing other weddings after they had been taken care of by me as an attendant. They were like,
Oh, yeah.
"Hey, I really liked what you did.
Yeah.
I felt really taken care of." And then, networking too with the photographers and cross posting their work, and they cross post your work. And hey, I got your name from this photographer that worked with
Hmm.
you. It generated more business. So, you know, making sure that you're stepping into it prepared and professionally and really mindfully was ultimately what kept me going through those 6 months.
Amazing. Well, you've got that under your belt for sure.
Yeah, yeah. It was a wild one because everyone held off on weddings for a long time.
Yeah, true. Very true.
That's why there were so many.
That's
So,
very true. Okay, shifting gears a little bit, we
yeah,
want to talk
absolutely.
to you about tip etiquette. So, we're
Yeah.
seeing small businesses change to a no tip model, increase wages or total fees. How do you think the market in the salon professional space will respond to that?
Like the buyer's market or the seller's market?
Buyers.
Okay. I I think that buyers are I'm not sure because they still ask me questions. How do I tip you? You
Right.
know, and I think when you have the right buyer that understands that it's a premium craft that they can't get anywhere else, then they're
Mhm.
not going to mind paying what they need to pay as long as my work speaks for itself.
True.
No, I don't mind going the no tipping route as long as people are charging what they should fairly charge
Right.
for their service, but also so that their service is backed up by that knowledge and education first and
Yeah,
foremost.
for
You know,
sure.
you don't want to just raise your prices without a point of difference. You don't
Yep.
want to overcharge somebody just because that's the trend of the market. You want to
Hmm.
make sure that you're offering them a supplemented service, that your service is different than what it used to be and what you used to charge.
Yeah.
So,
What do you say, what would you say as a stylist and salon owner is proper tipping etiquette?
sure. So, I used to work as a server before I was a
Okay.
hairdresser and while I was a hairdresser. And so I guess if I am recommending to a customer like tipping etiquette, I just say, tip me as you would your server at a
Okay.
restaurant.
Yeah.
Um, and then they do with that what they will. But I
Hmm.
know that, what I am charging, regardless of if they tip me or not, is still going to keep my salon going and I'm
Okay.
still going to be able to pay myself.
Okay. So you're setting that bar. You're not intentionally relying, if you will, on the tip to skim that profitability off the top. Okay.
Nope, nope. However, the tip does let me know whether or not I did a good job.
Now that's fair. That's a good,
It's
yeah.
a gauge, and people are very
Hmm.
generous, and everybody has like different viewpoints on what tipping should look like.
Yeah.
But I think that regardless of what tipping etiquette should be, you should be charging what your service is worth.
Yes. And that's the cherry on top, right? That is like the
Yeah.
extra kick. Like you crushed it. I feel beautiful. I feel amazing. Like I can't get this
Yes.
anywhere else.
Yeah, yeah. But I do have to say that it is still important to tip your stylists because the hairdressing industry is really interesting in that, there aren't a lot of like supportive systems set up for stylists to
Right.
be able to support themselves.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of times, you know, healthcare is not offered
True.
or like health
Yeah.
insurance is not offered through
Yeah.
your salon. You don't always get as much paid time off as other industries would. So for that reason, anytime anybody has tipped me, they need to know, it's helped me be able to provide myself with private insurance.
Yes.
Uh,
Great point.
So
Great point. Okay. If we move into the theme of shaping,
yes.
tell us a little bit about what is shaping? What does that mean to you? And we're going to get into it.
So, okay. It started with a class called
Okay.
Head Shape Matters.
Okay.
And I went out on a limb to take this class. My family had asked me what I wanted for my birthday, and I said I want to take a haircutting class.
Cool.
And they were like, "That's really nerdy," but okay, that was good. But what Head Shape Matters narrows in on, and it was a system developed by Kim Moore,
Okay.
I cannot thank her enough for the work that she has put into this system because it has completely changed the way that I cut hair. Uh,
Wow.
so I actually have my comb with
Okay.
me to kind of
Okay.
demonstrate.
Perfect.
Um, if I take this comb, this is
Yep.
not just a comb for distributing hair, right? I'm actually utilizing it to lay it on the head to
Okay.
see where each person's curvature is.
Mm.
And people are often a little confused. I'm like, I am going to measure your head shape in order to determine how I should cut your hair. Because when you
Yeah.
take one haircut and try to utilize that same haircut on another
Mm-hmm.
person, it's not going to look the same because the way that everybody carries their hair, the way that their head is shaped is completely different. So
Yeah.
it's
Good point.
identifying that variable
Hmm.
that helps me give a completely customized version of that haircut to that person. Some people carry their hair below their occipital bone. Some
Mm-hmm.
people carry their hair right in front here, and they're like,
Okay.
why can't I get enough
Yeah.
volume?
Yeah.
Why is it that when I ask for a layered haircut, then I feel like my hair has all been chopped off?
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure I do. Yes.
Yeah. So
Huh.
you narrow in on where the person carries their hair, the growth pattern of the hair, and
Mm-hmm.
give a customized haircut. So
I
that's
have literally never heard of that before. And I've been in the industry a little while. And my mom was a stylist for 40 years.
oh
And
my
that
gosh, I
is
love it.
brilliant. That is so interesting.
It opened up a whole world of
Ye-
things that I didn't realize, but it makes sense just
Yeah, it
about every
does.
time. Just about
Yes.
every time. So
Huh.
yeah,
Huh.
it's so cool. But I think I freak my guests out the first time that I lay my comb on their head and they're like, Are you gonna tell me that I have a big head? And I'm like, that's not what I'm not measuring the size of your head. I'm seeing where your parietal ridge is. I'm seeing where your occipital bone is to
Mhm.
tell me how I need to cut your hair. So
Wow. So smart. I love that. So, are there certain cuts that look best on certain head shapes?
I would say yes and no. I think that the bread and butter is finding a haircut that you get to wear, not one that wears you.
Mm.
Right.
Yep.
So if you are asking for a haircut that kind of goes against what your hair might naturally want to do with its type, texture, and density, I might advise we go a different direction
Okay.
so that you're not fighting it every morning. Because even though I only see somebody for an hour of time in my chair, they're spending the next 7 weeks with their hair every
Yeah.
morning and every night.
Hmm.
So I would say there's definitely certain haircuts that work better with certain head shapes or variables that that person might have. So I
Okay.
want to make sure that I marry what the person wants and what the person needs to be this perfect customized cut
Blend.
for them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing.
absolutely.
So, how, as a stylist, can you communicate or express to clients that the haircut that they may want
Right.
is not going to be flattering for their head shape?
Uh that's a really, really hard one, especially when someone is absolutely sold on this haircut.
Yeah.
I'll tell them, hey, you know what? Let's do a version of this, kind of dip
Okay.
our toes in, see if it works. And if it
Mhm.
doesn't work, that's okay. We will go in a different direction. But really narrowing in on their hair as a functional piece of art,
Okay.
right?
I like that. Yeah.
That's how I communicate with them that we want their hair to function for them. We don't want to have them fighting it, and what they might want might again contradict what they're willing to put in, as far as work goes.
Yeah.
Um, right now, my favorite thing to do in the wintertime is give people fringe because
Mm.
humidity is not a factor right
Yes.
now. So if
Okay.
you want to try out some fringe, right now is the time to try it. But
Okay.
we also go through and teach that person then how to style their fringe so they're
Yeah.
not fighting it every morning.
Yeah, for sure. And
So
it becomes a stressor, right? It's like, oh,
yeah,
yeah.
100%. That being said, though, I do like bringing people into a place where we can break the mold and we can do something different than they've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be, I'm never scared to do that,
Mm-hmm.
as long as we talk about everything that's going to go into it and what your new hair is going to need.
Okay, I love it. So we had a guest on the pod once say that they have their guests cover the face in their inspo picture and ask
Yeah.
them if they still like the hair color. Is that applicable for haircuts as well? Are we looking at the whole picture and not assuming that cut's going on your face?
Yeah, right. Okay. So it's actually really interesting that you say that because I was working for a very long time with people that were wearing masks. So
Oh,
essentially,
right.
the face was covered
Mm-hmm.
and the haircut did look a little different here with the mask
Huh.
up versus with the mask down. So
Yeah,
I also needed to see where their jaw was. I
for
need to
sure.
see where the jaw sits in order to see how the hair is going to lay.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think that any haircut is necessarily a bad haircut on someone, unless it's wildly unblended
Yeah.
or, you know, is flipping out in a weird direction. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that it's a bad haircut,
Okay.
uh, unless it's not well executed. But
Fair.
you know, I hope that didn't come off in the wrong way, but
No.
uh, I would say it's definitely beneficial to be able to look at the whole picture. I don't know
Yeah.
that I would recommend covering up the face to see if they still like the haircut because,
Okay.
yeah, I want to see where your cheekbones are. I want to see
Right. Your
where your
jawline
jawline is.
and your smile, right? I
I
mean,
want to see
it
your
is so
smile.
interesting, like how we look so different like this versus, and we're so
Yeah,
used to it for so long.
100%.
Okay. In your bio, you noted that hair is a game of cause and effect.
Yes.
Explain to me what that means.
There are a lot of variables that go into hair, right? And I think that hair functions based on a couple of things, right?
Okay.
Hair functions based on the way that it's cut, the way that it's colored,
Mm-hmm.
its type, texture, and density, the products that you use, and the way that you touch it,
Okay.
and also the environment, the elements,
Yeah.
you know. And if one of those things are changed, whether we can control those things or not, something else is going to happen.
True.
So it's my job to be able to understand if I change this little component, this might happen. If I
Okay.
change this little component, this might happen.
Yep.
And that might look like recommending a different product. That
Hmm.
might look like cutting it a little bit differently.
Okay.
That might look like, you know, um, recommending that they put a nozzle on their blow dryer.
Oh,
You know,
yeah. Yep.
that's one that I surprises me a lot is when, we talk about heat styling and stuff like that. I'm like, do you have a nozzle on your blow dryer? And they're like, no.
No.
It will really help smooth your cuticle if you have a nozzle on your blow dryer versus letting it run wild and exposing your hair
Hmm.
to a windstorm, essentially.
Yeah. Good
So
point.
yeah, it's all a game of cause and effect, and I feel really accomplished as a stylist if my predictions at the beginning and the things that we change up, it all comes together at the
Yeah.
end, and I'm like,
Yep.
yes, I won.
Because
You
there's a lot
know,
of variables, right? That you mentioned,
totally,
controlled or
totally,
uncontrolled. There's a lot to consider.
absolutely, absolutely. And then 9 times out of 10, the person is also happy,
Yeah.
that we won that
Yeah.
day. So
Yeah. I love it. So the next part we're going to transition into is a little something we call the tease quick takes, which
yes,
are just a fun way to get to know you and kind of round out the interview. So if you're ready,
I'm
I will
ready.
begin. Okay.
Good.
What was your first ever product that you owned, beauty or hair care?
Oh, beauty.
Okay.
I thought that mascara was
Mm.
God's gift to the world when I first tried it on. I remember experimenting in my mom's bathroom with her makeup, and she was like, "What are you doing?" You know, and then her mascara would go missing because
Yeah.
it would be in my book bag at school with me, admittedly. And she was like, you know what, maybe we should get you your own stuff to play
Mm-hmm.
around with. And
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that makeup was such an interesting medium to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Is very it's a very fun form of expression
Yeah.
that people can use. So
Do you still have a love affair with mascara?
I do. Although I have a fabulous lash artist who has
Okay.
like hooked me up, so I don't even have to worry
Yeah.
about what my lashes look like.
I
So now I
love me a lash artist. I
love
love
me a good
it.
lash artist. She
Love.
she is the best.
Because
So
don't you think when you take them off or you give them a little breather after a couple years, which I recently did, and then realized I looked like a drowned cat or
oh,
something.
don't say that about yourself. It's good. It's good to give yourself a little bit of a
It
breather.
is. I gave it a breather and we're back.
We're back. We're back.
All right. Are you superstitious? And if so, about what?
I am. I'm totally superstitious. I I think a lot of stylists can empathize with leading by feeling.
Mhm.
So if
Yep.
you need to wear more comfy clothes that day, just do it. Don't feel like your shoes are too tight that day because it's
Yeah.
just I get superstitious. Maybe I need
Okay.
to tie my shoes differently sometimes, and that's okay. You
And that's
know,
okay.
it's okay. It's just a regrouping method. I've totally been notorious for carrying crystals with me while I work.
Okay. Yep.
So I've got
I
a
love that.
crystal in each pocket
Yep.
and we're good to go. And then my wife finds them in the laundry machine like later on. She's like, what are these?
What? I love that. Good
Yeah.
question for you. Who would play you in a biopic of your life?
Oh my gosh, I have no idea.
Okay.
um I don't know. I think maybe Demi Lovato. Maybe Demi
I like
Lovato.
that. All right.
Thanks. I when I first it was funny when I first met my wife, she told me that she had a crush on Demi Lovato, and before I met her, someone had told me that I have the look of her.
Oh,
I
well,
don't
there you go.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I think that Demi also steps into a lot of
Hmm.
vulnerable places
Yeah,
herself. So
for
if she's
sure.
willing to go back to her acting to
Yes,
play a biopic of me, I would be honored.
that would be it. All right. What do you consider the ultimate comfort food?
Oh my gosh, bread.
Bread. You can't go
Bread.
wrong.
Any bread is life. So growing up, my grandpa was actually a baker.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and it's really cool. Everyone in my family works with their hands, and that was the way that he worked with
Cool.
his hands. And so for my birthday growing up, I used to get my own loaf of bread that I didn't have to share with
Yes,
anyone.
that is so cool.
I didn't even have to share with my brothers. And so bread always kind of brings me
Yeah,
back to just I don't know, a comforting
it's
place.
symbolic. Yeah, it's like
It's
a,
a it's
yeah.
a deeply rooted,
Hmm.
yeah, comfort
Great
food.
story. I love
Thank
that.
you.
Last question. You are on a deserted island and can only bring three beauty products. What are
Yes,
you bringing?
I am bringing a good shampoo,
Okay.
a really good clarifying exfoliating shampoo, get all the
Okay.
yuck out.
Okay.
Um, and hopefully I can double use it on my body because if I'm on a desert island,
Yep.
you know, you probably want to feel clean.
Yep.
Um, I would also bring a salt spray
Oh,
or like
okay.
a scrunch product that I
Okay.
let my hair go wild and do its
Okay.
thing. And I would bring a leave-in conditioner with UV protection
Okay. Perfect. You're going to need
to
that.
to handle the knots.
Yeah, you're gonna
You
need
know?
it.
Yeah.